Not there, you said electricity is not there yet?
No, we have electricity. It's a temporary connection that we took
Oh,
last year,
okay.
which is about 4 times more expensive.
4 times
times more
more
expensive.
costly, is it?
Yeah, than the regular thing, domestic
Oh,
rates.
that
Mm.
is too costly then. As such, electricity is costly and you are paying 4 times the bill.
Yeah, because what they do is they will charge you industrial rate for
Hmm.
construction purposes. So they have not yet. I don't know. It is. It really feels like the Indian government at the moment. The status is that they are doing everything possible to try and get the maximum money out of people. Also, because we are a very small tax net, and a lot of it is going towards corrupt practices.
Hmm.
So instead of helping people build houses, first of all, it's very difficult in India. The process is like this, where they try to take as much money as possible.
Okay. Yeah, we will discuss. Now, Milind is also here, so let's start
Oh, good. Okay.
the session. It's already started recording.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I hope we remember till here, and
Hmm.
we are to start from here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I remember this.
yeah. So the slide is all about selective attention as the targeted beam, how it is going to help us. Let's see how it can be used as an anchor. This diagram is all about neural pathway routing board, just like circuitry board and signals and how the wires are getting connected, all those things. Similarly, this has been kind of created. And if we go to the deep dive, it says selective attention is the brain's dual action mechanism for isolating important data from a sea of chaos. It requires the active, intense beaming in on a single chosen target while while simultaneously dampening the neural circuits of all competing distracting signals. This push and pull dynamic ensure that cognitive resources are routed exclusively to what matters the most. This one actually we have already discussed, but one thing to note here particularly is there are a lot of information all the time bombarding to us. Now, if we are very much focused and if we are kind of become very much aware of the beam of attention that we are possessing, where exactly we need to focus, then automatically all the periphery information which are not that important to us are oblivious and we can easily ignore them. If not, we will keep on collecting all the information with unnecessary curiosity that we generally possess. And social media is no exception. Social media excessive indulgence is one of the example of collecting our unnecessary garbage and putting in our limited memory capacity, putting in our limited intelligence. And it is kind of tainting. Our intelligence is getting tainted because of that. Another practical scenario that we can think of is a concrete violinist uses selective attention to track the conductor's specific baton movements, that is beaming in, while actively suppressing the sound of a coughing audience member in the front row, that is dampening circuits. So this is called as an attenuator. So if someone belongs to computer science or electronics background, they must be knowing in their engineering from their engineering background or kind of studies, there used to be a term called attenuator. So that has this kind of job wherein actually it can selectively reduce or kind of completely omit a particular wavelength, and that
Electric
particular
frequency.
noise will be
Electric
completely out
frequency.
of it. Hello, am I audible?
Yes,
Yeah.
Prakash bhai.
Yeah. Then coming to the next slide, it says about the flow state, and that is the ultimate form of attention. So among all kind of attention, the flow state is ultimate, and I can say that one who knows how to go to flow state, they need not to practice the Pomodoro, they need not to take the help of Pomodoro session also. They can easily go to the flow state, provided they know how to beam into that. So this is very, very important part of the book, I would say. I'm not sure whether it is there in the book, but we have kind of gathered little extra. It was there, I think, in the book called Atomic Habit, wherein, and in other books also I have read this.
Yeah,
There should
deep work, atomic
deep work.
habit, all those
Yeah,
books refer to this.
yeah,
Yeah, refer
yes,
to this concept. Yeah.
right. It is breaking, Milinji. Is it only for me or Ramesh, you are also?
Yeah, it is breaking a bit. Sounds
No,
muffled.
my net connection.
Oh, okay, okay.
Correct. Yeah, I think from his side.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it says about like what is the right balance of challenge
Because
and
he,
skill. Yes.
can you hear me?
You want
Sorry.
to say something, Milinji? Yes. Yeah, I can.
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Yeah. So deep dive or flow state, because we touched this particular topic in previous sessions. As I'm going through the recording again and again.
Hmm.
Yes, and you mentioned that particular line, the flow state, and just now you mentioned that okay, in that case you don't need Pomodoro as well if you are able to get into flow state by your own. And very important line which you said in last previous session, I just want to repeat it. It is all the interest and curiosity you have that for that work,
Yeah.
and you gave the correct example of movie Dhurandhar in one of the session. How you go into that particular movie hall, all the light goes off, and you are totally engrossed in that movie because you are interested in that direction. I am interested and I am curious about what happening next. If we do exactly the same for the task which are doing at the moment in the front of us, like this session, okay? If I'm really curious to know what's on the slide, if I'm really interest, that is a flow state, in that way. So we touch that subject. Actually, it is not
Yes.
kind
Yes.
of willpower or something. It is your interest and curiosity. Automatically, you go into that state because that is how your brain brain gets the dopamine,
Exactly.
good dopamine, I mean.
Yeah. And
So
I would like to
yeah,
specify one
very
more thing here.
important, very important.
The voice is
Thank
breaking,
you.
Milanji.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Milanji's voice is breaking.
Voice is highly breaking, but whatever I can hear,
Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, whatever I can hear from that, actually, what I understood now, Miranji, you have great
Hello.
deal of curiosity and interest for these sessions, and you take it very,
Are you there?
uh,
Yeah.
like very diligently. That's how I remember. Means the thing that you are mentioning, it's it's not
Yeah. Your
easy
voice
for
is breaking.
someone to remember to that detail, to that degree of detail, and
Yeah.
you are completely kind of engrossed into that with high degree of
Mm-hmm.
curiosity and interest. It shows that you have actually got the flow state while watching the, even while watching the video, and you got the real cream out of it. Yeah. So, great. Good to know actually.
One more. Oh, sorry, I lost you there for 10 minutes, 10 seconds. One more question I had,
Hmm.
Prakash bhai,
Yeah.
that, when you say flow state, I
Hmm.
remember if I look at the practical scenario written here about a graphic designer who sits down to create the logo, and he realizes after 4 hours that it only felt like 20 minutes. So when we are in that state, whatever it may be, it could even be an engineering problem that you're solving or anything. But
Right.
my question is, I always had this doubt that when we are in the flow state, even when artists, for example, they get into the flow state, and they forget about time, forget about eating, and
Yes.
they are fully charged with energy. At that time, isn't it? I always had this thought that you become a pure channel of the divine, and whatever you create in that flow state is actually energized with divine energy. Like, if example, if it's a painting, then when even along 10,000 years after you're dead, also the painting is perceived by somebody else who's standing in front of it, they will still get a signature of that. Purity of the divine channel and be uplifted in some way, become happy, or even if they look at that very nice car design, or if they look at that wonderful graphic design logo, and it is actually a little bit of the divine that touches you at that time. Is that hunch correct?
Yeah, that is right. So
Okay.
that can happen with anyone, the artist also, the complex. For the artist also, okay, here one thing actually to note here, if you see the graph, the
Ah,
challenge and the skill level are
ah,
at its optimum state.
right.
Not very challenging and very complex, not lightly challenging or lightly complex.
Ah,
Similarly, if the skill level also, it has to be at its optimum level. If it is very
mm,
easy, you will not feel motivated, you will not feel like working very diligently, and you think that, okay, I can do it at a very easier manner and in a very less time, so I will
mm,
start only very late. And that's how people procrastinate also many of the tasks.
right. Right.
And if it is highly complex, you will not have the clarity, and most probably you will not feel like starting also. So
Yeah, it
it
might
has
not
to
be
be optimum.
occupied.
It has to be
Mm,
at the optimum level of challenge and
mm,
skill, so that mm, we go to the flow state. This is one of the key point when we are selecting any task and planning for a flow deep work session. That is what actually here mentioned also clearly. When we successfully drop our emotional baggage and perfectly match our highest tier of skills to a highly challenging task, we enter an optimal brain state known as flow. This represents the absolute pinnacle of human focus and productivity. In this zone, time distorts, effort feel effort feels effortless, time distorts, efforts feel effortless, and our cognitive machineries is running at maximum efficiency. That time, even if a kind of huge noise is also kind of being produced, the physical barrier, physical distraction, what we discussed, those things also hardly matters to them because they are already completely engrossed into the subject matter. So this example also of a graphics designer is given where he sits down to create a complex logo, becomes completely absorbed in the challenging, and suddenly realizes 4 hours have passed in what felt like just 20 minutes. That means the notion of the time has kind of vanished. Coming to the next slide, the phase locking is the neuroscience. Phase locking is the neuroscience of flow. Let's understand the two-step mechanism. One is out of the phase. Second step phase is locked. So flow is not just a physiological concept, it is a measurable physical state of profound neural harmony. Neuroscientists refer to this optimal state as phase locking, which occurs when our brain's neural circuitry synchronizes perfectly with our intended target. In this state, the brain's frequency perfectly mirrors the rhythm of the task at hand. So this is the way we can actually measure also whether we are in flow state. It's very important. Let me read it again. Flow is not just a physiological concept; it is a measurable physical state of profound neural harmony. Neural harmony, mind it. Neuroscientists refer to this optimal state as phase locking, which occurs when our brain's neural circuitry synchronizes perfectly with our intended target. So, if we are not clear about our target, also we cannot achieve the flow state. This is also very important. That was not mentioned very clearly in the previous diagram. So the target has to be clear. We should have a very clear target. And after that, once the target is very clear and we know what to be done, the clarity will also help to keep us engaged to the extent that we go to the flow state. And in this state, the brain's frequency perfectly mirrors the rhythm of the task at hand. So the neural circuitry in the first image, if you see, neural circuitry rhythm is just the rhythm that is required for the target to achieve. And then phase locking happens when both are in harmony, both are moving in synchronous manner. Then automatically the synergy produces. It is not just energy; it is synergy. And then phase locking achieved, and in the phase locking state, we just completely remain immune to the outside disturbance. The practical scenario here, what it is given is when a race car driver is navigating a hairpin turn at 150 mile per hour, their brain waves are biologically synced with their visual and physical inputs. They are phase locked with the act of driving. And we all know how difficult actually it appears to the people who are watching. So sharp turn with so high speed is actually highly impossible. Actually, it feels like highly impossible to us because we never have done this or we never have gone to that state. They must be already in the phase locking state, wherein actually they are not in physical state, they're in metaphysical state kind of thing. Completely in a different arena.
Yeah, I think sometimes we experience it when we're going on a hill station, like when you go to Tirupati or someplace, or even Nandi Hills. If you're driving fast, if you've got a fast car which can pick up very fast and pass other vehicles quickly, you get into a certain phase lock where even if a narrow gap you have to overtake the bus in the front, which is going on hairpin bends, you will somehow find a way and squeeze through. But it's very scary for the passengers because they're not in the same phase.
True. Yeah, Milinji, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, actually, this is again a synchronicity because yeah, actually I was going to give the same example, but you already touched that racing. This is an example we shared by Tony Robinson. He went to the same F1 track and sit with the actual driver and what actual, and this is exactly good example for, can you hear me? Yeah.
It's breaking, but yeah,
Hello.
we can make it out.
Hello.
Today, yeah, today it's
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
hear
So,
you.
he's a driver. Yeah, so his driver colleague, he said to Tony Robinson, "Don't look at the tires. You know there are tires at the outside. Don't look at for a second as well." And he banged those tires 3 times. You know, so that is the neural circuit target rhythm. He said your focus should be on the road, not on the tires by side. But even if your eyes just shift by few seconds to the right, automatically your hand moves to that direction. It is just a split of second it happened that he banged the car thrice to the tires. So that is what many this F1 drivers they use this word flow state. That means they are phase locking stage because if you see their movement and this thing, actually everything is happening by default. You know they are not using their thinking process at all. Their muscle memory is such strong and they are so much in a zone that they the speed is around 200 and above that, so yeah, definitely if you watch all those documentaries and movies you will get the idea. So that is the best example actually for the flow state, I think. Yeah, and I take always their examples, their experience. They're always in that flow state while driving those cars. Yeah, awesome, thank you.
You know, I've experimented with this sometimes.
Uh-huh.
When you're the same height it bends, when you're going downhill, after
Uh-huh.
about say 15 20 bends, when I've gone very fast, and I've enjoyed myself driving a fast car around the bend. And suddenly, when I've experimented where I have switched from driver to passenger mode, even though I'm still driving. And then all of a sudden, the hairpin bend feels like as if I'm going to get dizzy because I feel like I'm being flung around the corner. Whereas if I'm in the driver mode, I will tilt my head and I will tense my body effortlessly, to go around the bend. But if I switch to passenger mode, just like that, out of as an observer, sometimes I do that just to observe how it feels.
R-
Uh, and then I
Ramesh,
suddenly,
just a moment. Hello, Ramesh,
Haji,
just a moment.
yeah,
Now you're touching very key important point of the flow state. Okay, what actually happens when you are driving state and when you are on the passenger seat? Okay, the switch that happens. Have you observed
ah,
the switch? What the switch happened there? Okay, when you are on driving state, okay, you are not
ah,
thinking. You are part of that
yes,
flow. Okay, when you
correct,
are away
yes,
from that, whenever
ah,
thinking comes in, all these things
ah,
comes, all the
exactly,
negativity comes.
exactly, yes.
You know yeah, so
Yes, I
this is
do.
very important because
But then
as
I
you
think that,
mentioned, no,
mm,
while watching the movie,
ah,
while watching the movie,
ah,
it is while watching the movie, it is exactly the same thing. You are not thinking; you are just
yeah,
expecting something to happen in front of your on a screen. So
right,
whenever
right.
thinking comes, right. Thank you.
Yes, very well said.
True, true, very true.
Yes. Yeah.
Another thing is like if someone is driving very slowly, then
Ah,
all
Uh-huh.
this thought process automatically triggers
Yes.
and we start
Yes.
thinking. But if it is moving in a very high fast space,
Yeah.
hmm.
then automatically we do not have any luxury to think any
Wonderful.
absurd
Yeah.
thing. So we automatically become highly focused. So this
Yes.
Yeah.
this principle applies in the fast reading. If we want to achieve the maximum throughput and we want to
Yes.
read it very fast, often we think that okay, we may not be able to grab all the inner meaning, but at times even that is also possible because that time, but it doesn't happen in the beginning. Slowly it happens because our mind is tuned to not daydream because it doesn't have time to daydream. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
another nice principle actually we have here in the slide. It says about the pleasure principle of focus. So what is this exactly?
Mm-hmm.
It says that evolution rewards us for entering state of profound, uninterrupted focus. Already that reward is guaranteed by the evolution. It's already been given to us. However, full total absorption in a task actually feels incredibly good on a biological level. In fact, undeniable pleasure is the definitive emotional marker that confirms you have successfully entered a flow state, which marks that we have successfully entered a flow state. Undeniable pleasure.
Yes.
So, undeniable pleasure automatically comes one who is in flow state, one who is working in flow state. Actually, he doesn't feel like it is working also. It is just a flow state of enjoyment. Definitive emotional marker that confirms that we are in flow state. One example is after a grueling but highly focused hour of untangling a complex spreadsheet, you lean back in your chair and feel a distinct warm dose of satisfaction and pride. That is the biological reward of flow. This happens when we do something great, achieve something great in a flow state, and the pleasure is something very distinct and different. So
Yeah.
that will trigger the pleasure center. Otherwise, if someone this we have discussed in our Saturday sessions also
Yeah.
that why many of the people these days or the current generation are not feeling the real pleasure and peace. One of the reason is like the flow state is missing. So most of the times, if we are working very superficially with very light focus, then we will not be feeling satisfied with our own work. And with the missing satisfaction, we cannot trigger the pleasure center. We ourselves kind of will be blaming that, oh, what is this? This is no good actually. We could have done much better. So automatically that feeling comes, and that pleasure center will not be triggered. So if we want to get the pleasure also, if we want to get the peace, pleasure and satisfaction, then also it is very important to do the promo session initially to tune the environment, tune the mind, and get the distraction completely away, so that we slowly know how to enter to the flow state. And once we are habituated to it, maybe we can reduce the number of Pomodoro sessions, but initially definitely it is required. And afterwards also, to maintain the Pomodoro, to maintain the Pomo state, to maintain the flow state for a longer run, we should actually not miss the Pomodoro session. It is so important.
Yeah.
Then the next slide, how many slides? 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 slides are there. Let's see. Group exploration, what we can do. So think about the difference between sensory and emotional distraction. Which specific emotional loop, that is either it is could be worries or conflicts or fears, most frequently hijack your workday. This is the assignment for today. We will be kind of noting this, that what kind of worry, because we are good at dealing with the physical distractions, but the emotional distractions are more worrisome, and we generally ignore them. We think that okay, unless until the awareness is not there, we will not go and deal with them. But they are the actual culprit of we not going to the flow state. Few examples: it could be worry, it could be in the conflict between family or some other teammates, or whichever it is, some kind of conflict or some kind of fear. And that frequently actually it hijacks our workday, partially or maybe complete also. To navigate the noise, we must first audit the specific types of interference we encounter daily, reflecting on the core difference between sensory annoyance and emotional hijackings. Help us map our personal vulnerabilities. Consider which specific internal narrative consistently pull you away from your most important work. Internal narrative, that means our brain is actually, our mind is a meaning making machine, and it creates narration for each and everything. Which of the narrative that the mind is habituated to create it, and creating it again and again, and negative in nature, they are the biggest culprit. We need to identify such kind of patterns, and once we identify, it is possible for us to distract, eliminate. Like in this session, a participant might say that the hum of the office fridge, it could be a sensory, is fine, but lingering frustration over a misunderstood email, that is triggering the emotional loop, right, ruins their morning productivity. Similar kind of scenarios, actually we need to spot it out from our daily habits. Another group exploration that we all can kind of reflect, that is, we need to recall a time you experience flow, a moment where time seems to stop and you were perfectly absorbed in a task. What conditions allowed that to happen? Okay, which condition actually has been favorable for achieving that flow state? Once we know that condition, we can again replicate that. But unless until we reflect that situation and the conditions which were responsible for getting that flow state, we will not be able to achieve that. So flow is not entirely random. It reveals, or it leaves a trail of clues that we can reverse engineer for future success. This is also an NLP concept. What has been achieved by someone can be achieved by anyone else. That is called modeling. So modeling success. By recalling a specific moment of profound absorption, we can isolate the environmental, psychological, and skill-based conditions that catalyze it. Sharing these optimal conditions helps us, or helps the entire group, build a blueprint for deep work. Example could be a team member recalls a time they achieved flow while drafting a proposal by dissecting it. They realized the necessary conditions were having their phone in another room, a clear rubric, a tight but fair deadline. Tight but fair deadline. It is not too tight that it appears as unachievable, or it is not too lenient that we feel like, okay, we'll not start now. We will start some time till the last moment. If it will linger, and we will win trap. Last two slides. Let's finish. Let's see what are the action that we can take. So we understood what is a threat, and when we reflect, when we externalize, then we get the clarity, the clear runway, the path gets revealed. So before initiating any task, okay, we do that as a MJ, right? MJ practice, micro journaling. Before initiating any task that demands your highest skill level, you must intentionally clear your cognitive workspace of emotional debris that we do with TTC and MJ. You can achieve this by physically writing down any lingering worries on a piece of paper. We do that in our awareness tracker. This externalizes the threat, signaling to the brain that the issue is temporarily parked and safely clearing the runway for flow. One example could be before opening a complex slide deck to design, you take a post-it note, write down, pay car insurance, stick it to your monitor, and immediately feel the mental bandwidth free up your design work. So this could be an example to replicate.
Can this
Similarly,
be also done using the tapping method, EFT?
yeah,
Because
we
I
can.
find a lot of relief when I use EFT. Suppose I get
Yeah,
stuck.
while the EFT has a different purpose, it is kind of meant to release the emotional baggages that we have at the end of the day. But you can obviously do it before starting any complex task so that you will be free and you will be recharged and all the emotional baggages are out of the way. Yes, definitely. That's a good one. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I've had a lot of positive experiences with EFT.
Yeah, I know you are a fan of the EFT actually. The time when we started. So we are going to start another practice very soon also on Saturday session. So keep it keep the curiosity awake. On the last slide, reclaiming attention is the ultimate well-being pivot. And this is the powerhouse, the power to disengage our attention from one thing and move it to another is essential for well-being. One thing to another means like unnecessary thing to only the necessary thing. We need to move our attention. We need to learn that skill. So it is like mastering attention is not merely a productivity hack, it is a fundamental pillar of human health and happiness. As we learn to disengage from fruitless worry and actively pivot our mental spotlight towards engaging challenges, we transform our daily experience. Reclaiming our attention is the ultimate act of reclaiming our well being. And the example could be by choosing to consciously shift your attention away from doom scrolling the news and redirecting it towards deeply playing a board game with your family, you actively safeguard your emotional health. So that if we are completely glued to the thing which is unproductive and we don't know how to stop it, that is very much detrimental for our success and mental health. So that is why the current practice that we are doing is very much important. And Milinji is doing it, I think, very religiously and posting. Rameshji, I shared the recording with you. Please go through it and start putting the score because that increases not only our awareness but also it helps us to learn the skill how to get rid of ourselves from the unnecessary things like doom scrolling or and be it anything which is non-intentional. Basically, we know how to stop it.
Yeah.
By practice only it will happen.
Yeah.
This
Because
completes.
it's like the TTC which we integrated 1.5 year, like integrated into our life. This is again very important practice. It is a practice of awareness, just to check how many times your mind wanders. And the slide which you have shown, that is actually again a statement from Einstein. It is a sign of an intelligent person, how
Yeah,
quickly he shift his focus from unwanted to wanted. So similar like this. So it is very important to have our natural and God given intelligence with us, and don't go into that particular spiral of unwanted things. So the practice which we started from last week, that is again very key. Even if it goes to 18, 20, 25 times, that means those many times in a day you observe your thoughts, okay, going away. Even your count is 2 or 3 times, but still it is a really good practice to practice of awareness. Yeah, otherwise, as you just at the beginning of the session you mentioned, uh, this is the attention, this thing, everyone is there to grab your attention. Everything happening around you is to grab your attention. And
exactly.
yeah, and and this is very very key,
Because
which
our
you picked up.
attention has a great price tag, invisible price tag.
Exactly.
Yeah, invisible
Yeah,
price.
it is a limited this thing, and we need to take charge of that, and
Yes,
that's why this book is really, really key for this thing. It's
correct.
good that you picked up at the start of the year. Again, yeah, it's a start of the year, I can say.
Yeah.
Not mid already. Yeah.
So
Thank you.
Monica ji, welcome. Good to see you after a long time. If you want to
Yes,
share
yes.
anything, please feel free to share. Otherwise, we will be ending this session.
How to practice awareness?
Awareness, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there are multiple ways. One of the ways that we are actually discussing and practicing, and I will tell you the way briefly. But if you want to practice easily and kind of do it on a day-to-day basis, maybe quite frequently, then that accountability can be possible if you come to the other group, the Saturday group. Otherwise, uh, practicing might be difficult, but let me tell you one way which can be kind of practiced. You can try, obviously. Uh, okay, now actually the time is up. We are actually timed for 15 minutes, but I think we have taken 45 minutes today.
Oh,
So just
okay.
remind me, the next session I will in the beginning only I will kind of cover this.
We'll discuss tomorrow.
Ha,
We'll discuss tomorrow.
or just ping me personally, and if you're interested to join also the Saturday session in a circle, Milanji and Ramesh ji is already part of it. So if you, there are many other similar mindset people are kind of part of it. If you want to join, it would be really great. You're most welcome.
I was in that Saturday group, but currently not receiving any messages.
No, the Saturday, there is another Saturday group that is Inner Circle. This is a
Okay.
free initiative, that is a paid initiative,
Okay.
wherein actually we have tracker, we have rewards, goodies, and we have daily activities, we have habit building, effortlessly how we can build habits. All those things are kind of covered in that session, that particular weekly session, and one session per week only we are having, and for the rest 6 days we are practicing together in a group
Okay.
with a guided way, in a guided manner, with a
Hmm.
tracker, with graphs, with dashboards and everything. So I know that you are not part of that group. If you want to be part of that group, you can always reach me. I will tell you the detail.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Milinji and Rameshji.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone. Have a
Manish.
nice day.
Have a nice day. Bye.
Yeah.